welcome to Penn. Welcome Eric and Kim back from New York at the weekend at the Shanley for the Paracon. It went well from what I heard. I was not able to get there. We're in the middle of thunderstorms and team and rain. It's Wednesday night, so of course we are. In the winter it was snow and winds, and now it's the spring and the warm weather coming, so it's the thunderstorms. Hope everybody had a great, wonderful 2 weeks away while I was not here. Well, none of us were. And I want to get on with the show. There has been some weird energies going on out there this past week for a lot of people running into, like, the same type of issues. I don't know what's going on with the planets out there, but we'll see if Dr. Rita's been experiencing similarities lately with anything going on. My guest this evening, I want to welcome Dr. Rita Louise. She has been a guest here on Penn. She was a guest about a month or so ago, I guess. I did not realize it, with Eric and Kim. And she actually, she has a Ph.D. She became fascinated at the age of 12 with ESP. So we're going to hear about that. And she has, due to that, she has been doing research in health fields, wellness, psychology, philosophy, and the sciences, and mind, body, and healing. I know I heard from quite a few people when they found out Dr. Rita was coming on this evening. When I bring her on, they want me to let her know how much the show she did with Kim and Eric had changed them and what has improved for them from that show. So I want to bring on Dr. Rita. Dr. Rita, welcome.
Hi, Misha. Thanks for having me on the show. And your baby.
Yeah. Angel, really? You have always behaved. She's usually up in bed with you know, for the night by now, but the weather, the wind out there, I have no clue. She's just, since 8:30, she decided she was just going to raise hell.
Well, she just smells bitsy, so, you know, they're doing dog things.
So, have you been noticing weird things as far as mainly it's with relationship issues with people, communication things going?
I mean, like, people are being really bitchy lately and nasty.
And saying I really hate people. And you just want to just stay in the bed with the door shut and just everybody go away.
Well, I work out of my home, so I really do have the luxury of kind of doing that. All right, I don't stay in bed, but you know, a big trip for me is like, well, I'm going to go to Starbucks and go get some coffee.
And you get to go, what, just in the car? Well, Dunkin' Donuts has the drive-thru. I don't think Starbucks does.
Well, some of them do, but no, they know me at all the local Starbucks, and I go in and I torment them for a while and then leave.
Oh, yeah, it's been, I guess, about a week, started at the beginning of last week, with just the nonsense. I don't know if it's the change of weather. I mean, last week there were certain places still getting snow, for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. Something's going on in the air.
Well, I mean, it just seems like it changes every other day, and I think it's been really challenging for people to kind of ground themselves and put their feet on the ground, because it's like it's this way one week and this way another day, and then you have a good day, then you have a not so good day, and then the people around you are just being crazy.
Yeah. And when you're empathic and you just pick up on everybody else's crap, it gets to the point you can't even When it's this bad, you don't know if it's you, if it's them, if it's 50 other people. It gets horrendous.
Mm-hmm. That's when I get on the phone and go, have you been feeling like this lately? And if I get, one person that I trust saying it, it's like, okay, it's not just me. And sometimes, for the listeners realizing that it's not us, that it's not me, then it gives us the chance to kind of move through the energy onto something else,
right.
And let it go. And so that's really just a really great concept to kind of keep in the back of your mind is it me?
Right. And once you know it's not, like you can get rid of it and move on, because otherwise you're just overwhelmed with, what is this? Is this something that's going to be going on with somebody in my life or with somebody I know, and you're feeling the pretension of some traumatic event, and it gets overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Even in the beginning of the week last week, all of a sudden out of the blue, I had a major migraine, and something just said, post it on Facebook. And I'm like, whoever has the migraine needs to just take it back. And I had somebody that I had actually just gotten off the phone with within the last half hour, and she was like, it's me. I'm like, okay, you need to just get off my Facebook page, go away, don't read what I'm posting, and get out of my energies. So I don't forget, because we do have a few listeners out there that aren't in the chat room because they're relaxing at their campsite and things, so they're watching us through their cell phone or iPad or whatever the hell they watch it on. One of them is one of our hosts for our other shows here, Title. He watched the show that you did last month with Eric and Kim, and he wanted me to let you know that he has stopped drinking soda. So whatever you said, he was a major soda drinker, which is what is in my mug. I drink nothing but Coke, which I need to stop that. You instantly stopped him from drinking it with that show.
Wow. I talk a lot. All right, I don't talk a lot, but I can talk a lot if I need to. And I don't know what I said, but amen, hallelujah, it's a miracle.
And he also said that, he's paying attention more to the labels on foods that he really buys. And he said, to quote him, it's pretty damn scary out there to eat anything with what he starts to see and pay attention to. Exactly. But we don't want to do the same type of show. I didn't even know you were on, a month ago. I missed it. So, and if I would have been, I knew you were scheduled, I don't know that I would have watched it anyway deliberately, just so I don't do, repeats and things like that with people. Mm-hmm. I try to stay away. But I know there's a lot of interest out there with ESP, because when people are going to psychics, even, everybody has their own understanding and definition what a psychic is to them. And some think it's a mind reading. Some think we're just sitting there. We're going to hand deliver them their love. And, they're going to wander off happily ever after like Cinderella did. Everybody's understanding of what they think a psychic is and what we do differs. So one of the big things that comes up is ESP. So how did you become, at age 12, curious on it, and what is the true definition of ESP?
True definition. Okay.
Can actually read somebody's mind when they use that term?
Well, I mean, ESP stands for extrasensory perception. So it is the gathering and utilization of information that is gathered outside of our five senses. So another word for it would be, our sixth sense. But even sixth sense doesn't necessarily mean psychic. I mean, they're tied together, but it's kind of a much looser term. I mean, nobody really uses ESP anymore, but in the 60s and the 70s, that was like the word.
Right.
You had ESP. And I mean, that's how I became interested in it. There was 2 TV shows on at that point in time. One was The Amazing Kreskin, who was a mentalist, and he had ESP.
That's right.
And then there was another show called The Sixth Sense, which wasn't the movie, but it was about a college professor who had ESP, and he would solve murder cases using this extrasensory perception. And I thought it was so cool because he'd go into somewhere and he'd like pick up a pen and he would have this like precognitive thought that Mary's going to get in her car and it's going to drive off the cliff and she's going to die. And he'd run out and they'd look and her brake lines were cut. And I was like, wow, I want to do that. All right, not see the ghost part, but the other part. And, and so I just started reading anything I could get my hands on that had to do with the subject, which really, at that point in time, wasn't a whole lot. There really wasn't a lot of materials. But one of the things that I did discover in my reading was that there were a lot of ties to Eastern philosophy and that kind of thing, personal growth, and started reading, Ram Dass and Meher Baba and Carlos Castaneda and pretty much anything I could get my hands on in that area. Went through the whole personal growth phase in the 80s. And, then eventually, because I always was looking for somewhere. This is kind of a funny story. You'll appreciate this one. I was always looking. I was living in California at the time, and I kept looking for some place that taught classes on psychic development, tarot reading, psychic development. I was pretty open to anything that had ESP. And so once or twice a year, I lived in the Bay Area, and so the Bay Area is somewhere between San Jose and San Francisco, and I lived in the South Bay. I graduated from San Jose State. And so I would drive to Berkeley, which was on the other side of the bay, which was about a 45-minute drive. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it was a fun place to go. And you'd walk down Telegraph Ave and you'd go shopping. And there was this metaphysical bookstore, kind of a more spiritual metaphysical bookstore. And in it, they had this newspaper called The Psychic Reader. And so I would get this paper and I would take it home and read the articles, and then they had kind of a classified in the back, and I would always look in the classified to find a place that was teaching a class, and they never had one, which I thought was really strange. And so years go by, I'm still reading, studying anything I can find. I took some meditation classes through a different organization. And I'm walking down the street. It was an outdoor street festival, like in the summer, with the booths and the bands and all that stuff. And there's someone handing out these flyers for a psychic fair. And I was like, oh, well, maybe somebody there teaches psychic stuff somewhere. So I go to this psychic fair, but I really didn't want a reading because I could do my, I had my cards. I could take out my book, and I was pretty accurate with my book. It gave me the information I needed, and I had other friends, and we would read each other. And so it wasn't like I went there for a reading. I went there to find a teacher. So they had this information table. Misha, this was so funny. I go to the information table. I go, does anybody here teach classes on psychic development? This guy picks up one of those psychic reader magazines, papers, opens it up to the centerfold, and goes, this is the training program from the Berkeley Psychic Institute, and here's all the classes we offer. So apparently the Berkeley Psychic Institute put out this newspaper. I had been collecting it for like 8 years, and apparently never noticed that there were all these classes on the centerfold. So I guess I really wasn't ready yet.
Right. Yeah.
So I took their training. After being in their program for 3 weeks, I discovered that I had been very psychic my whole life and didn't really realize it. I didn't realize that when these weird things happen to you and when you say these things that are just kind of off the cuff to people, but they're true, that is a psychic experience.
Right. You just think it's common
Weird.
knowledge or
Common knowledge or a weird synchronicity or...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to, in high school, I went to an all-girls school. And, it's always about, that age, it's about boys, of course, and the heartaches and breaking up and caught him with her and who's he like better and all the catty stuff and dramas. And for whatever reason, and to this day, I still get it, they all sought me out. They could have not liked me, but they'd hunt me down during free period, during lunch, and they just plop down next to me and start yapping about the breakup or the problem they're having with the new him in their life. And they'd finish, and they're like, well, what do you think? And I just, out of my mouth would come a reply, and they'd look at me. Well, how do you know that? I'm like,
Just
anybody sitting here would have come up with the same conclusion. And they were all looking like, no, she came to us first. And I just said, this is common sense. What is the matter with everybody else? But yeah, just like you don't realize things like that it's whatever, higher power psychic abilities.
Mm-hmm. You just think that it's weird. I mean, I had friends that called me radar because I knew where stuff was, but I think I also have a very good sense of observation. And so, they might put some, and memory, and so something might get put down somewhere. And, I remember like 3 days ago, I saw you put it here, and I'm able to just have this really good recall,
Right.
So, but they used to call me radar. And, and I think when I discovered that I had been psychic, one of the most profound experiences, I was working at a company, and I have to preface the way I make this description is this is coming from the mind of a 20-year-old, okay? And so I was working at this company, and I was friends. There was a lab, like a testing lab next door. And so the lab assistant was my age. And so we used to like run around and get soda and cause problems everywhere. But anyway, his boss was this older guy. He was like 45 or 50. And, but he was at work every day. He was nice. I'd go in, I'd say hi. When we went to get soda, I would get him a soda, save him the trip. I mean, that was pretty much our relationship. Well, he didn't come into work one day, and it was just really bizarre that he wasn't there. But, you don't really think anything about it.
Right.
So the next day, he came into work, and he had that comb-over thing happening, and he had this little, I even have a camera. He had this little round Band-Aid on the top of his head, and I mean, I think you understand how I am, and maybe your listeners kind of get my personality a little bit. But in my cognitive brain, I was thinking, oh, well, he probably has a zit up there, and it's probably like really pussy, and he put the Band-Aid on there so we don't have to look at it because it's just probably gross.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking. I swear to God, that's what I'm thinking. And I walk up to him and go, well, where were you yesterday? Having them check for a brain tumor? And his face turned white. And he left the room, and every hair on my body was standing on end, and I was shaking. And I went back to my desk, and the lab assistant came and yelled at me because apparently he had told the lab assistant, and he thought the lab assistant told me.
Told you.
Oops. Open mouth, insert foot.
Insert foot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of one of those moments you just want to wish the ground would open up.
But let me ask you a question. I mean, I know for me that there have been countless times where something will just come through and just exit my mouth, where I really kind of have no control over it. But now I realize that when those utterances come out, that they're always true. Blunt as it may be, they're always true.
Yes. And I realized along with that, when you added the bluntness to it, that the way it comes out the way it needs to based on who I'm talking to. Otherwise, they won't get the message.
Mm-hmm.
And they won't take it seriously. And it's just instinctive, where somebody else, you might be a little more delicate. You'll say the truth, but do it more gently because they can't take the bold, blunt to the point. And even when I'm doing readings, there are certain times I'm doing readings and, you're a professional, you're getting paid, you're sitting there with the client, but then I'm doing the reading and out of my mouth comes, you know what? You're really sick of the crap from him. He's acting like an ass. And it's like, oh, shit. And I think to myself, oh, shit. And I'm sorry, and they start laughing. They're like, no, you're absolutely right, and I need to hear it told to me that way. But I still, something like that, I still like, oh, God, did I just curse during this real? But it's only, every single time it's happened, the person needed to hear it that way.
Well, I had a client. I mean, I do a lot of events, festivals, expos, and stuff. And I had a woman come to me wanting to know when her husband was going to die. Now, I do a lot of health work, and so it's not an abnormal question for me to get. I'll get people that their parents are older and they're very sick, and they just want to be prepared, and I have very strict rules about when I will put out a life expectancy, as far as the person has to have made the decision that they're ready to go. Now, once they've made that decision internally, then I will give you some kind of a number, short, fast, it's going to take a while, whatever that might be. But there really is internally a decision that says, I'm ready to go now. And it's a readable thing.
Yeah, I believe that.
And so this woman asked me, and I'm like, well, but I don't even get that there's really anything wrong with him. She goes, yeah, but I'm just tired of being in the relationship, and, I just want him to go. And so I suggested divorce to her. I mean, I don't really remember what the conversation ended up being, but, she really wasn't in agreement to anything I had to say. So it was like, okay, well, just, give me my money and we're good. I don't know. It was like 6 months later, maybe longer. I'm at a different event, and it was a bigger event. They had like actual 10 by 10 booths. I was sharing a booth with a good friend of mine, and I finished up with my person, and she was like, Rita, come here. And I go, what? She goes, what do you get for this woman about her marriage? And because she wanted to know when her husband was going to die. And I realized that it was the same woman asking the same question. Well, I looked at her and I said, so what you're telling me is a sofa and a lamp is more important than your happiness. And I just thought about what I said, and I turned around and walked away. And my girlfriend just cracked up. I mean, because it was true. She wouldn't get divorced because she didn't want to give him half.
Right.
So a sofa and a lamp was more important than her happiness.
Right. Right. Wow.
I wonder if she ever got divorced. I mean, I don't know. Asking everybody doesn't make them die faster.
Yeah, right. And it doesn't make things happen faster. You have to do it.
But not kill them. That would be bad.
Oh, that is hysterical. I want to talk about, because time's going to go by really quick here, the fact that you do the medical,
mm-hmm.
and that you do have, your PhD, so, you're allowed to do more than
No, not really.
itself. No?
Not really. Yeah, I mean, the only people that can practice medicine are medical doctors,
Right.
period. I mean, even a chiropractor is technically not allowed to practice medicine. They have a little bit more latitude, or if you're a naturopath, depending on the state you're in,
Right.
not all states, you have a little more latitude given to you by the state, because medicine is a state-controlled function. You have to be licensed in a state to be a medical doctor. So, like, I'm in Texas, and if I moved to New York, I would have to get recertified in New York because it's state-controlled. And so what your ability to practice is managed by the state. And so just because I have a PhD in natural health counseling does not give me any more latitude than your grandmother telling you to eat chicken soup because you have a cold.
Okay.
It just makes me smarter. In a piece of paper kind of way.
and you get to have the initials behind your name.
Right. That's right.
Well deserved at that, because that takes a lot of work. Now, the psychology aspect of it, because as readers, this is one thing I think a lot of new people that want to start doing readings professionally don't realize that, we're not allowed to be psychiatrists if we're not, but it ends up in a counseling type session.
Mm-hmm.
People only come to us for readings when they have a bunch of crap going on in their life. Where is because a lot of psychiatrists out there are against us readers, whether it's psychics, mediums, tarot readers, whatever. They're completely against it because they know that exactly what I just said, and they fear that if it's something really, really serious, how many out there, I know I refer and say you need to go see a professional, but how many really do that? And, there's the fear of taking it upon themselves when they shouldn't be. And they're against readers because they feel you can't really separate the two. What is your belief on that? Should it be completely kept out of a counseling type session? Or do you feel there's a fine line? And when you see complete, utter, they're not going to spiritually grow. They're not going to take the advice and the steps that we're relaying to them. They need to go see a professional.
Well, I mean, there is always a time and a place for somebody to go see a professional. I don't doubt that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, one of the things that I have all of my students do is to go get their minister license so that they can practice as a spiritual counselor in the same capacity as a minister or a priest, who are allowed to tend their flocks, and have that conversation and have that dialogue with people, because there's not any way for you to go. I mean, you would just be a yes or no machine. Is my marriage going to stay together? Yes. I mean, there would be no reading if there wasn't conversation and there wasn't dialogue.
Right.
And to me, personally, there are not enough therapists. I mean, our society is moving and our society is changing, and there are not enough therapists or medical professionals that understand alternative medicine, that know even what a chakra is, that understand energy and energy dynamics and how we can be affected by the energy around us. let's not even get into the whole concept of attached entities or anything bizarre, psychic attack, whatever. I mean, let's just not even get into any of that stuff. But if they knew what a chakra was, I would be happy. And
right.
I mean, I've gone and worked with therapists myself, just because I need somebody to kind of, reflect to, and talk to
right.
and kind of get that feedback. And I think that's a necessary thing, that we all be open to that, and I don't need a reading. I need someone who is going to reflect in a more, just in a different kind of way.
Right.
But if they don't know what a chakra is, I won't see them.
Right.
I'm serious.
Right.
I have gone, I at one point in time had really bad tendinitis, which I didn't know was tendinitis. I thought I was getting carpal tunnel syndrome. And the doctor asked me, well, what does it feel like? Okay, so this is what it felt like to me. It felt like someone had taken a stick and rammed it into the chakra in the middle of my hand and then rammed it down my arm. That's what it felt like. I said, well, do you know what a chakra is? And she said, no. And then I just went, it hurts. But if she knew what a chakra was or something, then she would have gotten a very clear description of how it hurt.
Right, right. And that's another thing that ends up being problems as well, and comes up in conversations a lot. I hear dead people. I see dead people. All voices in my head. Right away, meds. And how many people are diagnosed as maybe schizophrenia or whatever, and they're actually communing with the dead, and they don't know it because they don't understand their psychic abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that getting a bigger issue? Because we're getting more in tune with our higher selves, and people are becoming more open to things like that. And you got, all the TV shows with the ghost hunting programs and things like that. But I don't think that aspect of science and the psychologists accept that for the most part. So what do you say about that?
I mean, I have worked with quite a number of individuals who had quote-unquote psychiatric issues. And a lot of them, one had issues with entities attached to them and being tormented by some non-corporeal being. But they also had other issues going on. They had issues with their chakras. They had issues with them, in the most part, being blown out or distorted. Or they had issues in their ability to filter energy, which is part of one of the functions of the chakras. Or their auric field was just paper thin, and they would just let anything in, or they would invite stuff in. And they would just become overwhelmed, and so when I've had individuals come in that way, I have to make an assessment of, is this somebody I can help, get them kind of under control in so many sessions, or is their issue big enough, or are they in a potentially dangerous position to themselves or other people that they need to have some kind of other intervention happen? Right. And that's really, because I believe that you can really help those people, but sometimes it's just in too advanced of a situation that, if the person's having thoughts that they want to kill their neighbor, or they find themselves curled up in a ball for 3 days on their living room floor and they can't move, that's not good. That's right. And you have to weigh out, well, should they be on medication? Is there something I can do? And usually within a session or so, I can tell, you need to go take that next step, because this is a long-term fix. The saddest part is when they go on the medication, it is very challenging to work with them because they don't present the same issues. It's all buffered and it's all masked. And so I don't know if they ever really get healed because the medication kind of covers everything up.
Right, like the Band-Aid. Put the Band-Aid, cover up that scratch. Right.
You know, but in the situations that I have, like, definitely referred, it's probably a good thing. You know? It's probably a good thing.
If harm and danger is not an issue, but they're insisting they're hearing voices in their head, or, you know, they're being followed or whatever, is it hard to determine if they're actually a person that is a medium and it didn't even occur to them that they are, or that they attracted an entity that's following them, and or maybe there's an entity living in their home? Is it hard to determine that or not, because you do work with both and maybe easier for you to recognize?
It's pretty easy to determine, you know, sometimes just by asking questions as far as who they are and what their journey has been. You know, one of the things, and I don't want to say this is a new thing because it's not really a new thing, is that there are individuals that they just kind of pop open. You know, it's kind of like the individuals that have had like a near-death experience where they come back and they are wide open to everything. And they don't know how to filter. They're just being bombarded. I mean, I am just so grateful that this is just how I am. And I have learned, apparently, very good coping mechanisms of turning it off. I can just turn it off. You know, sometimes I have to turn it off more than other times, but I can just turn it off. Or turn it on, as the case may be. And I think that, you know, people, now that they are kind of going down this path and they're opening the door, there are more people popping open. And now they're seeing stuff and they're hearing stuff, but they don't have the background. They don't have they haven't read enough books. They haven't watched enough TV shows. They don't have the intellectual background. And I'm not saying they're stupid, but to understand what they're experiencing, even if somebody tells them this. Some of them do. Other ones, not so much, because they just get really scared of what's going on.
Now, do you use your own psychic ability as well to tune in to see if they have a detachment around, or, you know, your own psychic abilities to help with determining?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, if somebody comes for, I mean, that's not like the first thing that I look at with somebody. You know, I mean, my personal style is I like being a problem solver. You know, so I like when people come with their dirt, and, you know, bring your questions. You know, if you have health issues, just talk to me about where it hurts, because you know where it hurts, and why should we spend an hour trying to find where it hurts when you already know? What a waste of time. You know, it's that Jewish part of me. It's like, it's such a waste of money, you know. Anyway, you know, and so, I mean, I'm always, you know, when I'm working with people, I mean, that's why they come. And so if somebody starts talking about they're hearing stuff, you know, or there's something going on, then I start doing an evaluation. Is it attached to you? Is there something going on your property? Is it actually not yours, but belongs to someone else that you're interacting with? Because I've had that, you know, well, it really belongs to mom.
Right.
Great. You know, and whatever that is, and give them an assessment of what's going on, things that they can do to maybe strengthen their auric field, get rid of it, you know, whatever that next step is, depending on what they're hoping to achieve. with it because not everybody wants to get rid of them.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's comforting to them, or what?
Because they're not bothering them.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, if it's more like a ghost person.
Right.
But, you know, I was giving a presentation at a little mini conference thing. I don't even know that I'd call it a conference. Anyway, I was doing a presentation. It was a ghost event. And it was being held Halloween weekend. And this one woman was in the audience, and she was I don't know, she was just really upset. And one of the other presenters that was there was telling her, because these were like ghost hunting kind of people, but this one woman had her story and whatever. And anyway, and so she was telling this woman that she needed to get rid of the spirit that was in her house. And she was really upset by what the woman, you know, that there was something wrong and she shouldn't have him there. And so I asked her, I go, you know, I'm like, what's going on? Why are you so upset? Well, it turned out that the spirit that was hanging around her was her twin brother who had passed. And my feeling about it was that he had died, went into the light, and was there kind of acting like her guardian angel. And there was absolutely no reason why she needed to get rid of him.
Right.
I mean, because he wasn't an earthbound spirit. He had gone into the light and was waiting for her, basically.
Right. Protecting her and looking out for her.
Right. You know, and so, I mean, but she felt so guilty and felt like, oh, well, there's something wrong with him and he shouldn't be here and you know, all this negative stuff, but that really was not the case.
The first thing that comes to my mind with that is it sounds like somebody that one of those that go around maybe charging obscene amount of money. We're going to cleanse your house and, you know, get rid of, and just like the psychics out there, you're cursed and a spell.
And $12,000 later, I'll light a candle for you.
Right. With that special oil that I just read at the Rite Aid. Yeah.
Yeah, that. No, I mean, I didn't get that impression, but she came from a very traditional ghost hunting background without really understanding that there are different kinds of spirits that inhabit the world. You know, and there's a very clear difference between a ghost that is someone who is an earthbound spirit who has not gone into the light and someone who has gone into the light and then has decided to come and visit. And that's how I say it. They come and visit. You know, so grandma might come and visit. I was moving into a new house with my ex-husband, and his dad, who I had never met, who had been gone for like 12 years, was sitting at our kitchen table. And I'm going, if your dad was in the house, would he be sitting at the kitchen table drinking a cup of coffee? And after, you know, him trying to saying all this weird stuff, I was like, he's here. And I mean, it was clearly him. I had no doubt in my mind that it was his dad. But we were moving into this brand new house, and I was unpacking the kitchen.
See that? Yeah.
And he like hung out with us. It was really cool.
That is cool. We're going to be running out of time, so I want to get a few quick things in here. Before we get off the topic of all that, do you believe that there's demon spirits out there, or just the old, if you were a bastard in life, you're a bastard when you're dead, and they're just a grumpy, miserable spirit? Like they were.
There definitely are a lot of those. A lot of those. You know, but I have encountered, you know, and I kind of put them into a demon category. Spirits that are non-human corporeal in nature. You know, so like I've seen these like amoeba-like entities. I think my favorite, right up there with least favorite, was this fire guy. I called him the devil guy because his body just had like flames all over it. He was from a different dimension or a different world and kept trying to, and they're not from the earth. They don't speak human. And so you cannot connect with them emotionally. You can't really connect with them.
Right.
And so I just kept asking, what do you want? What do you want? And all I kept getting from him is, I want her to come with me. I want her to come with me. And so finally I looked at him and said, well, she can't come with you. She's here. And then I got the message. He wanted her to kill her. He wanted her to kill herself so that she could go with him. And I asked her, I said, have you ever tried to commit suicide? And she said, yeah, twice.
Wow.
And so that was the impact of this devil guy on her. I mean, I've seen some weird stuff, but, the amount of them it's not a huge amount, but there definitely is a chunk, and they get really weird. Really weird.
Well,
you do this work and you just never know what you're going to come up with.
Right. I want to get out there. You are an author for those that are hearing about you for the first time this evening. And you have written, one of the book titles is Dark Angels, An Insider's Guide to Ghosts, Spirits, and Attached Entities. And you've written Avoiding the Cosmic 2x4, as well as The Power Within.
Oh, and Man-Made, The Chronicles of Our Extraterrestrial Gods. That's my newest title. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Very good. Can they all still be gotten on Amazon and things?
Yeah. All my books are available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. Dark Angels just, in the last couple of months, came out in a Kindle version, as well as Man-Made is in a Kindle version. And all of my books are available on my website, which is www.soulhealer.com. That's SOULHEALER.com, soulhealer.com, which is kind of the portal to everything Rita Louise, my radio show, training, books, articles, my new video learnings, all kinds of stuff. And if you get any book from me, they always come autographed, and that's priceless.
Oh, there you go.
That's right.
And they can hear you on your own show that you host, Just Energy Radio. And when does that air, Rita?
That's on Thursday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can either go to justenergyradio.com and click the giant listen button, or you can go to the InceptionRadioNetwork.com and listen there, and that's where the chat room is.
All right. I wanted to make sure.
Hey, wait, let me say this, because we were talking about like psychic stuff.
Right.
Tomorrow, I am having Michael Tamura come on, a very good friend of mine. He was actually one of my instructors at the Berkeley Psychic Institute, and we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of psychic development and clairvoyant readings. And so for people that are interested in that, he's amazing. I mean, he's just an amazing man.
Very, very cool. I wanted to make sure we got all that info out, because we're running on just, the last 5 minutes or so left. It goes by quick. Plus the fact that I was spoiled for so long, able to go an hour and a half. I'm not in that hour mode routine quite yet. The Kindles are the new thing, unfortunately. I was laughing at you were talking back when you were doing the studies and stuff, and it popped in my head, and you had to use actual books to look everything up back then.
Well, I actually love my Kindle. And I have a very definite reason to my madness, is that one of the things you can do with a Kindle that you cannot do with a book is that you can highlight stuff in it. And this is only on the actual Kindle device. I can't get it to work in nearly as good a way on, like, if you have the Kindle app on your phone. But you can highlight stuff, and then you can export that file and then manipulate it and get it into an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm always researching. I'm always working on articles. And so for me, it makes this great research tool to work with. And so I love it. I love my Kindle.
I don't even have one. I don't even have an iPhone, or my cell phone's just a normal flip-up call. I don't even think I can do texting on it. I have no clue. Well, I am so thrilled we were able to hook up and get you on here. I'd love to have you back because, as you see, the hour just flies right
by.
Yes.
Well, you just, pick the day and pick the time, or pick the time because the day's already picked, and let me know, and we'll get back together. I had a lot of fun. We can talk more about psychic stuff.
Yes, yes. The first show's always, everybody wants to, if they're new to you, I want to give them your background, get them to know you, and then have you come back and we can delve deeper into the big nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Use that radar. And I've been on the machine actually by a few people because they just don't, people just use the daily, everyday pain in the neck annoyances as the issues. And they sit with me and it's like, no. No, this has gone on prior to the socks not being put in the underwear and the towel being left on the floor after the shower, and end up getting to the real heart of issues that go back years. And person looked at me like, oh my God. I really was trying to forget that. How did you know? What are you, X-ray vision here looking through me or what?
Well, I just tell them it's I'll say, well, you're showing me this person and this is how they're acting, or this is the feeling around the situation. And they'll go, well, I got over that a long time ago. It's like, well, that's not what your body's telling me. It's sitting right there.
Yeah, that happened to me in a reading. One thing that I had made an agreement with the higher powers is I don't want to know, the death issues and the major health issues. So it doesn't even come up. And this one time with a reading, it actually did. And I'm thinking, okay, this is weird because I don't do this. And I turned around and I said, okay, I'm getting angels, I'm getting death. Because she came to me about a job question. And she burst out crying.
And you're going to die.
I said, who is really, really sick or, is suffering? And she burst out crying. Her son had died almost the year before. And she said, but why are you getting that? I dealt with it a year ago. I said, no, you haven't, or it wouldn't have come up because I don't touch this subject at all. And she realized she hadn't because the year anniversary was just coming or had just passed, and it brought up all that emotion and memories again. And that was the cause of her issues at work, and she didn't even connect the two at all. Well, we have to wrap this up, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. I want to let you know, for all you tarot peeps out there, next Wednesday evening, I have the wonderful James Rickliff coming on and joining me. I got the pleasure of meeting him last year. He is so down to earth and personable and really a joy. So you want to tune in next week to speak with him. We'll take your phone calls. We had some interesting things planned for next week's show. And Dr. Rita, thank you so much again for joining me tonight. And we will set up when you're coming back.
Okay. Thanks for having me, Misha. Great conversation.
And everybody can find me at my website, terrorbymisha.com, or Facebook. I have the friend page, the fan page, and it's in the cards, is also can be found on Facebook. If you'd like to email me, I'm going to be doing a show now and then on occasion without a guest, and it's going to just be calling in for readings and answering your questions and things that you might have for me. If you're too shy or whatever and don't want to call in for those things, pop me an email and let me know what kind of topics you want to have on here too as well, because the show's all for you guys. With that, have a wonderful, fantastic week. I'll see you back here next Wednesday at 9, and tune in to Dr. Rita tomorrow night. Bye-bye.